So I felt like I had to make this video before I can make any other videos because I just haven't felt like making anything, as you can tell by the title. We lost our dog Pepper to cancer unexpectedly around the 4th of July. And it has been horrible. This whole summer was horrible. Worst summer, worst experience I've had in a long time with grief. I've had a lot of experience with grief. I mean, I've had a lot of people die around me in my life, and I thought that would let me have an advantage in this scope of human experience as grief. I have a lot of experience with it, but in actuality, it's just a wound that keeps getting reopened, and each experience with grief is just worse and harder. Maybe it's because I'm getting older and I don't know, like the experiences are the reality of the grief maybe hits harder as you get older. I don't know. All I do know is that I had legitimate moments of dissociation with this grief. I mean, I know some people don't like the whole fur baby term because it's like they're not human babies. But she was my responsibility and Greg's responsibility. And you know, I don't think there's anything we could have done. She had regular appointments, and in March, we had her regular checkup and everything was fine. And by July, she was sick, very sick. And I appreciate everybody that I called those few days. I appreciate everybody for letting me and Greg be really vulnerable and calling our vet friends with questions. And it still hurts so bad. And I don't know. Oh my god. I'm glad I have secret tissues in my car. I don't want to cry this early. I literally dissociated. And I don't remember dissociating before. But I literally just would like stand up after she was gone and think like, wow, our best friends lost their dog. That's horrible. For like a few minutes. And then the reality would like come rushing back into me. And it's like, oh my God, I don't think I've dissociated that hard before in my life. Well, with at least, knowing we found out on like the worst day for dogs ever. The 4th of fucking July, which I've come to not like that much in general. And with the fireworks, she didn't like those. Didn't like loud noises like that, And so the worst place a dog could be on the 4th of July is the fucking vet. On top of just how expensive everything was for it being a holiday, it was just the icing on the shit cake. And keep in mind, we thought she had the sniffles. She just presented with like the sniffles, dry nose, sniffles, lethargic. And I thought, oh, what if she has like a sinus infection? And then we took her to urgent care on the 4th of July for dogs, and they found no platelets in her blood, her CBC, and that's what I do for a living. I work in an oncology lab. I know the ins and outs of that kind of testing for humans, and I was convinced that it was a discrepancy, that the sample they pulled wasn't properly mixed with an additive that's in the tube that I know exists, and that they let the sample clot, and that they didn't check it. I don't know. Like, I was convinced that was wrong, because if it was real, then I knew something horrible was going on. And, she, like I said, just had the sniffles, no blood, no blood loss, no bloody stool, no concerning red gums, bleeding, pale gums, nothing. She had a reasonable appetite. Like, she gets picky sometimes with certain textures of food that we change every so often, but she was eating her wet food like normal. And it was real. She didn't have any platelets. And that's because her own body stopped producing them, because she had lymphoma. Just an aggressive cancer. That sucks. So we found out, the urgent vet told us to take her to the ER for dogs. And so we took her to the ER. I hadn't even been there. I wasn't even there at the urgent vet, because I was at home making dinner, because I thought she just needed some antibiotics for a sinus infection. And so Greg picks me up and we like start crying. We're worried. The urgent vet was worried. I'm calling all of my vet friends, asking them what is going on. And we get to the ER vet, and then we are like, just her demeanor, like she's not good with other dogs, and she barked once and it was like her, like a very weak bark, and it's like, what's wrong? How you weren't like this that morning. Like, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And they took her in and they were like, oh, she wasn't reactive to any other dogs. She had no problem. And I'm like, that's wrong. She's sick. Because she would be barking at these other dogs. She doesn't fucking like them. She only likes us. And they pull us in the back, and we're already like crying our eyes out, which we didn't stop. Like, it's been a while since I've cried so much that I had to take medicine to resolve the pain of tears. You know, like your face gets so aggravated from crying so much. It hurts. And we are the only people in there just not keeping it together at all. Shout out to them. Though, they were honest about like what was going on. And they didn't try to like do anything that would just give us hope where there was none. They told us, you know, after the I thought I could talk about this by now without crying so much. After they did the x-ray, they were very sure it was lymphoma. And you know, we had two options. Just let her be home. Or, you know, do like little dog chemotherapy and a bone marrow aspirate. And I know what that's like, because I work in that, and I'm like, why would we put her through that? For they said like maybe a year. Maybe. She was gone in a few days, so I don't think she would have recovered after the bone marrow biopsy anyway, and then that would have been like what a horrible thing. I'm glad we didn't do, because we would have put her through that, and then she wouldn't have recovered, and then she would have passed on, and then we would have been regretting that for the rest of our lives. So, not to say it's not something you can do, but it just wasn't for us. She was already very sick. And so we didn't really know how long we had, because they thought maybe like a month or 3. And we took her home, and I'm so glad. Something I'm so glad is that we had bought a new bed after our honeymoon. A king size bed, too, because our room is big enough. And it was great, very comfy bed. But also with the extra space, she actually slept with us every night from February till July. Cuddled up with us, so I'm sure that was great for her too, but it was great for us. And so we just took her home, watched a bunch of reality television, and just cried. And I had to call out of work. I don't even know if I want to talk about that here, because they essentially said no. I should have just said ER and just left it at that, because they didn't take it seriously. I feel like I should have parked farther away in the parking lot, because now there's people around me, but I don't care. I'm trying to get over that. If I want to talk in my own car, I damn well can. So yeah, where it's like, would you not let someone call out? Because it was a holiday. It was like the night before the 4th of July, and I was supposed to work the holiday. And then I said, I'm in the dog ER. My dog is dying of cancer. And they were like, please show up to work. And I don't know why they should have just done anything other than tell me that. But luckily, I have a great coworker who took a look at me as I walked in the door, distraught, as we had to leave Pepper in the ER overnight for them to run all the tests and do the x-ray and everything. And I walked in that morning knowing, like, at some point that day I was gonna get a call, and I even gonna be able to see her? Like, is she dying actively? Like, I didn't know. But I walk in, I'd start immediately bawling my eyes out, and she's like, go home, because she's an angel. And she was fine at work. And so I got home, and we're just waiting, and then we get the call about the cancer, and we go pick her up and just take her home. and watch reality television all night, and then at least it was like a weekend, and we got to just stay with her all weekend and feed her all the meat that we never eat in our house, like Vienna sausages and her entire rotisserie chicken and all that stuff. And then I went to work on Monday completely out of it, feeling like a horrible, horrible dog mom, because the only reason I was able to justify it was that Greg was not at work that day. We couldn't have left her home alone. And then Monday night, we've had a few friends over saying their goodbyes and everything, and one of my good friends was at the house, giving us support. Everybody's very supportive. And she throws up, Pepper throws up. And my friend helps us clean up, and she's great. And then, Pepper lays down, and it seems like everything's settling down, and my friend goes home. And it doesn't stop. She just keeps throwing up blood. And so we get a hold of a at-home euthanasia service, because at this point I know she's gonna just not be able to. She can't keep any water down. And that's not good. That's not a good, comfortable way to go. So, thank goodness this service was able to come in that morning and put her to sleep. On my lap, where Greg and I had stayed up with her all night. It took turns. And I kept saying, I'm so sorry. We couldn't do anything else. Because she was so full of energy all the time before. We thought we had so much longer with her. Oh my god, everybody's looking at me. I don't care. I wasn't expecting to cry like this. And that's what happened. And we people have been great. Some people haven't. Some people have said ivermectin would have, when we found out, I was telling everybody. Someone was like, why don't you try ivermectin? All you have to lose is your dog. Glad I didn't put her through that. No idea how that would have made her feel. Idiots. People keep asking me, have you gotten a new dog yet? When are you gonna get a new dog? And nobody apparently believes me when I keep saying, probably not for years. It's been two months. We got her cremated. And I'll miss her forever. And at least, like, Greg and I, we take turns in our grief usually, especially when it was so immediate. I mean, she was a member of our household for years. And so I just don't understand why. But yeah, for me, grief is a wound that just gets unraveled every time something like this happens. And I think grief will just get progressively worse as we all get older. I'm grateful that, I think if we had known for months, we probably would have been more broken. And I think, obviously, if we had lost her at the vet that night, we also would have been so hard on ourselves that we couldn't give her her last little good days, But we did. And like I said, I'm very grateful for everybody. But it still hurts so bad. And I want to make more YouTube videos, but I feel like I needed to make this one first because she was in a lot of them, and it's part of me, and I just don't feel right making I have a lot of progression videos that are, at least I have clips for in the making, where I learn how to do a headstand, and we're working on this Halloween fall DIY project. And it takes a little bit of time, but I don't know how I could post them without talking about this first. I think I would like to make a video about getting back on track with your life after grief. Maybe because we've at least gotten back into a bit of normalcy in the last month. And yeah, I cut my hair again. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you watched this whole thing, I'm probably not going to edit that much, except I'll probably put up a trigger warning before I talk about probably at the beginning. I don't know. This whole, grief, like, that's the title, obviously. Let me know in the comments if you've experienced grief just progressively getting more difficult. Because I've lost animals and people all throughout my life, but I feel like each time it's just harder. Perhaps it's because I know, like, each time I know the loss, like, I've experienced the loss, the missing person or animal, like, for longer. Like, they're still gone, and now someone else is too, over and over again. But I'm here at a thrift store, and I'm gonna go see if I can find a cute skirt, and I'm doing all these, like, progression videos of new skills and hobbies and things over time, because I know Pepper would have wanted me to keep doing fun stuff, because she loved watching us. Like, she just watches us all the time, and so I'm sure she would be very amused by, like, me doing a headstand. And so that's why, you gotta keep going, obviously. Like, I don't want this to be too dark. But it's not an easy process, and it never will be. And it will continue to become a more difficult process, and you never know when it's someone's time to go. So you really have to love and live like the loved ones around you don't have long, and maybe you don't either. So I'll end it there. I love you guys.